Okay, and welcome back to the kitchen. Today we're going to make some trifle. Now this is a traditional recipe originally from England, and it's made all over the English colonies. Yes, Australia. So this is normally done at Christmas time, but I really like it. And the local grocery store, Woolworths, had a few things on special, and then I realised a lot of them were ingredients for making trifle. So I thought, hey, it's not Christmas, but I like it, so let's make some trifle. So the first thing you're going to notice is a jam roll. This is one of the things that was on special. Got that for like $1.50 or something. Awesome. A can of peaches, and what I've done is I've just put them in this sieve and I've drained all the juice out of them, right? We don't want the juice, we just want the peaches itself. Then of course a bottle of sherry, which I've always got in the cupboard anyway. I'm only going to use a quarter of a cup of that. I think it's essential to put sherry into a trifle. That's what makes trifle. And I always remember my mother would make trifle every year at Christmas. Just loved it. Everyone loved it. And I always remember, but as a kid, the first time I tried it and I got a hit of this cake that was soaked in sherry, and I was like, oh my God, nearly took my breath away. It's not going to get you drunk, you know, but it's just something I just remember as a kid and ever since then I've loved it. So I probably wouldn't drink sherry on its own, but I love it in desserts and things like that. And then of course some jelly. I've already made up the jelly. You know, you just put in some boiling water, then some cold water, dissolve it. I just did that ahead of time. So trifle is not difficult to make, but it's bloody time consuming, I guess. And the reason is, you know, we have to wait for the jelly to set. And then we put custard on, and we've got to cook the custard. We've got to wait for that to cool down to room temperature before we can put it onto the jelly, otherwise it'll melt straight through it, right? So we're building layers. And then later we're going to top it off with some whipped cream. And again, you've got to do the cream. Right, so it's really, I actually do this over 2 days. So the bit I'm going to do now is the bottom layer. And then tomorrow I'll do the custard and the cream and finish it off. You could probably set this in 2 hours, this jelly, but you know, I just like to be really absolutely sure it's going to set. You could use other fruits if you wanted to, but I think they even tell you on the jelly thing, don't use pineapple because the jelly won't set. It's too acidic. In the past I've used 2 fruits, but they had peaches on special, which is traditional, so I got peaches, right? So let's just start putting it all together. And obviously you're going to need a nice bowl. Again, go to Kmart or something like that. You can pick something up like this for $5. You know, they're not expensive anymore. If you don't have a glass bowl, you could do it in another bowl, but I just think I just like to present it, you know, it looks nicely presented. So what I'm doing now is just cutting up this roll, jam roll. Again, as thick or as thin as you want. You know, I'm just winging it, what I would normally do. Now what I want to do is to line my bowl. Yes, that's the dog. It's the wrong time of the day to be doing this video because all the people are walking home from work and she's got a bark. So anyway, I'm just going to build this up, lining the bowl with the jam roll. And you can see I'm going right up the sides. And look at that, perfect. Got one little hole there, but who cares? fix that up a bit. There you go. For this bowl, it's a perfect fit. Okay, for how we cut that. So that's step 1. Step 2. Let's get some sherry on there. I use about 1/4 of a cup. I mean, if you know, you could use less if you really wanted to, or more if you really wanted to. So what I'm doing now is I'm sprinkling about half of it directly onto the cake because I want the cake to absorb that sherry. And then next I'm going to put in the peaches. So this is 1 can. I don't know if I'll use the whole thing. Oh, I probably will. Actually, that's probably enough. Almost a can. I don't want to overdo it with the peaches. And then I'll just give them a bit of a drink in the old sherry as well. What's left of it. That's that. And now finally, you probably should do this with a ladle, but I don't think you need to. I'm just going to slowly pour in my jelly. And there you go. Let that bubble and filter down and everything like that. So that's basically it for this part of it. Nothing very difficult at all, is it? It's really just assembly. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this in the fridge to allow that jelly to set. We need it to set. And then tomorrow, as I said, we'll do the next phase. I'm going to make some custard. And we're going to put the custard layer on, and then we're going to top it off with some whipped cream and, you know, some nuts and things on top. So that's my recipe for trifle, part 1. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, and it's the next day for our trifle recipe. So I've had the jelly in the fridge, it's all set. So now we're on part 2. So what I'm going to do is make some custard. Now there's 2 types of custard style, right? You can get it runny or thick. And I'm going to do the thick one for this one. Now normally if I did this at Christmas time, I would use French custard, which is called creme pastérie, which uses actual eggs, you know, vanilla essence and a lot of milk, a lot of sugar, that sort of stuff, and you do it all from scratch. I realise that a lot of the youngins out there don't want to go to all that trouble, so today I'll use custard powder, which you just buy from the store. Now I take it out of the crappy packaging it's in, and I put it into an old coffee jar. I just got the basic recipe on there, so I know what it is. So basically what I'm going to do is a combination really of the creme pastérie, the French way of doing it, but instead of using raw eggs and things like that, I'm just going to use the custard powder, but I'll still use the same technique. Okay, so which means we need a bowl like this. Should have got my measuring things out. So the first thing is, let's get some sugar. I always like raw sugar when I'm cooking, but you know, a lot of baking you do need caster sugar. So basically it's just going to be 1 teaspoon. This is my milk container. I put some sugar in the bottom of that. Stops milk from burning the bottom if you get distracted or something. I just do it out of habit now. Anyway, so my sugar goes into the bowl. And so normally I would do 2 tablespoons of custard powder, but because I'm going to do this French style and I want it a bit thicker, I'm going to put in 3. You could even do 4 if you want it really thick. That's what I would do if I was going to do a vanilla slice or something like that. So that's basically it. Okay, I'll sugar in our thing in there. And then 2 cups of milk. Now for this trifle, I may need to do this twice because of the size of my bowl, but I'll check that later. So there's our 2 cups of milk in there. But what we're going to do now is just grab 3 tablespoons or so and put it into here. And give it a good whisk. So I'll just show you what I've done there is I've made a slurry. That's the sugar, the custard powder and some milk. That's all you want, just to get it all mixed in like that. That's it. So this is now going to go onto a hot plate. Got it on a medium heat. You don't want to boil the guts out of it, right? And you also don't want it too low, it'll take forever. But essentially what I'm going to do now is heat that milk up just to the point of what we call the first boil. And what that means is as soon as you see little bubbles starting to appear around the edges or even in the middle, take it off the heat, right? We do not want it to boil, and you'll see why. Anyway, while it's heating up, I'll clean up. Okay, the milk is almost ready, but just while I'm waiting I thought I'd explain a few things. Now normally you would put that directly into the milk and you have to keep stirring it, and that's how you make the runny sort of custard. Okay, so that's basically how you do it. You just put it all in one pot and just heat it up, keep stirring it. That makes runny custard, okay, which is really good for other desserts and things like that. But as I said, I want to make thick custard because I prefer that for a trifle because it's all going to set, right? So the milk, and I don't know if you can see, you probably can't, but there's just little dots, little bubbles starting to appear on top, and that's exactly what I want. That's what we call the first boil. So it's ready. So what I'm going to do is take this, put about half the milk into that bowl, don't put that back on the heat, and give it a really good whisk. And then I'm going to put it into here, like that, and keep whisking the hell out of it, back on the heat. Basically, I'm going to whisk it until it starts to bubble. Normally takes a couple of minutes. So, as I said, I like to whisk it quite vigorously. Again, this is how you do the French style. You've got to whisk the hell out of it, you really do. And I guess it's just habit for me to do this. So you can see the consistency at the moment is sort of like normal custard. It's that runny, just a bit thicker than milk sort of texture. But you'll see once this heats up, it's going to go quite thick. Pretty sure I'm going to have to double this up. It's been a while since I've made this. I mean, it was Christmas time actually, which is, you know, we're in, what are we in now? September, so it was almost 12 months ago. For that size bowl, but I'll do that off camera anyway. Okay, now it's starting to thicken up. That's it, it's bubbling. It's just starting to bubble. This is what I want. There we go. Don't know if you can see that, but how thick it is compared to before. That's exactly what I want. Perfect. So that's it. Done. Take it off the heat. Oops. Now I'm going to let that cool to air temperature basically. I don't want to put it in the fridge. So yeah, I'll just let it cool down naturally. Now I can't put it on yet, but what I normally do when it gets a bit cooler is I put some plastic wrap over the custard and I make it touch. I push the plastic wrap down in there to touch the top. That way it will not form a skin. And the other thing is, don't get tempted to do that and then put it in the fridge to cool it down quicker. Because if you put plastic on there and you put it straight in the fridge, what will happen, you'll get condensation. So you get all this water forming under the plastic, and it's awful, right? You don't want to do that. So we need to let this cool down just naturally. If I put plastic on there now, it'll probably melt. So that's the other reason why I'm not doing it yet. Yeah, so that's it. I'll come back when this is ready to go on. Okay, and here's a trifle from last night. If you remember, we put the cake in, some sherry, some peaches, and then jelly. It's now set. So the custard is now ready to go on. This is at more or less at room temperature. I'm just going to pour it on. It's looking very good. Okay, so I'm just going to smooth it out a little bit. So I'm tossing up in my head actually to make another batch of custard to bring it up to the rim. Or actually I won't. What I'm going to do is just now going to let this set in the fridge again. To do that, like I explained before, because we're going to put a layer of whipped cream on top of here. So what I do is I get the plastic wrap and now I'm going to push it down. I'm actually touching the custard. Okay. As I said before, that stops it from forming a skin on top because we don't really want that. Okay, so that's basically it. Back into the fridge again. You could easily make this in one day. It's just that I started it late yesterday. But you just have to allow for all this setting, you know, so you need like 4 hours at least, I think, for the jelly. This would be set in an hour, maybe, give or take half an hour. So you could easily do this in one day if you started it early enough. And that's what I do at Christmas time actually. I make this the day before Christmas, on Christmas Eve. But, you know, I started at like 8 o'clock in the morning and I finish it maybe 6 at night or something like that. And then it just goes in the fridge. Next day it's ready to serve. It's perfect, okay? Anyway, so that's it. I'm going to put this in the fridge and we'll come back and do some whipped cream. Okay, so now we're going to move on to doing our cream for the top level of the trifle. So we're going to whip it, and you must use thickened cream, okay, which is very important. Now beforehand I chilled my bowl in the fridge just to make sure I get a nice thick cream. Now whenever I do cream on anything like this, I usually do something that's called chantilly cream. And what all that is, you add some icing sugar, or if you're in America it's powdered sugar, whatever, and some vanilla essence. Okay, so I've got 600 ml in here. Normally I do this for 300 ml. Is 1 tablespoon of powdered sugar and 1 teaspoon of vanilla essence, but because I've got 600 in here, obviously I'm going to double it up. So there's my powdered sugar. And now 2 teaspoons of vanilla essence. Anything else comes in? Just like that. Done. So now we're going to whip it. And this isn't quite long enough, so hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm doing. I'm using a hand mixer because obviously it's easy, it's convenient. You could use a stand mixer. You could even do this by hand, although you'd be pretty bored and crazy to do it that way because it'll take like half an hour, where this method takes about 5 minutes. Okay. Anyway, let's go and I'll speed it up. Okay, so it's more or less whipped. Depends on what you want. Tastes perfect. Good. Basically, I'm after peaks. You know, if I do that, it's quite thick. That's what I want. Alright, so it leaves peaks and things. Now, don't forget, if you over whip cream, you make butter. So you always remember, just to keep trying. It's better to try early than too late. Okay, so there's our cream done. Let's get the trifle out. Remember, we put our plastic on to stop a skin forming. If I can get the plastic off. And that's exactly what's happened, okay? No skin. It's perfect. It's good. So now it's just a case of putting the cream on gently. Because even though that custard is set, it's still custard, you know, you don't want to smash it all up. Now as for a topping, it's really up to what you like. I'm going to put some, I'm going to toast some almond, like slices they are, not full almonds. And I'm going to put them on there. I was contemplating, because right at the moment we're in September, which here in sunny Queensland is strawberry season. So strawberries are really cheap, and there's a lot of them around at the moment. I don't have any on hand, but I was contemplating ducking up to the shops and grabbing a punnet and put that on top. Other people like to put coconut, you know, but nuts is common, crushed nuts. But as I said, I like using almond slivers. I give them a quick toasting, and all that is, I don't think I need to show you that, but just get a fry pan, nothing in the fry pan, just straight on the heat, get it up to temperature, put your slithered almonds in or whatever you want to roast or whatever, and just keep moving them around and stuff like that. Eventually they'll start to go brown, they'll smell really yummy, and that's it, that's all you do. And then you just sprinkle them on top. So I'll try and do that anyway, and I'll show you the end product. So that's basically it. Obviously I'm going to tidy this up around the edges afterwards. Try and even it out as much as possible. What I normally try and do is this, get a knife, and just square it up a bit. I don't have a proper pastry knife, so this will do. Just fill in the gaps. Anyway, I'll muck around with this for a while, try and get it to look pretty. That's all I'm doing. It's got nothing to do with the taste. Clean up. So for now, I'll put this bad boy back in the fridge just to keep it all together and cool, and I'll show you what it looks like at the end. Okay, so here we are, finished. Yes, I ended up getting strawberries. These are the toasted nuts. And that's going to be a funny thing. Someone's going to make up a joke about that. And as I said, I just put them into here, heated this up, put them in, and just keep, you know, moving them around and that sort of thing, and then they go a beautiful colour, and the smell is amazing. Okay, so then I just got some strawberries, hulled them, which is just cut off the ends, chop them in half, put them on there. So there you go. That's more or less a traditional trifle. As I said, it's normally for Christmas time, but hey, such a nice dessert. You can have it any time of the year. So one thing I'm going to do, which I don't normally do, normally I would leave it at this point, but I'm going to show you what it looks like when we serve it. So I always like to dig right down . So I mean, it doesn't look that you know, wonderful on the plate, but geez, it tastes nice. And no, I'm not eating this all myself. Hopefully some people will come tomorrow and help me finish it. So anyway, that is what a typical trifle looks like. Thanks for watching. Bye.